turn that down a little bit. Try this again.
Just the other day, saw you looking my way. I start to contemplate moments that went to waste. Why you do that? You drop me like who that?
Alright, that might be better.
Baby, it's useless. I'm living my life. Don't need you in mind. Me feeling just fine. One of a kind. Who better than I? Oh. Shawty, don't play that game. Shawty, don't play that game. I won't keep you safe. Time that I relocate. Don't play that game. Shawty, don't play that game.
Good to go.
Know my place. Shawty, I know my. Got a lot to do. I got a lot to do. I got a lot to do. At the crack of dawn in the dark of night, what I got to do? I'ma make it loud, how I made you scream like a cockatoo. Turn the pussy wet, about to shoulder rest with the cockatoo. What you expect, how I forget these thoughts of you. Don't need no reps, I'm in the jet, gon' fly the coop, fly the coop. Shawty, don't play that game.
Let's see what we can do
Shawty,
here.
don't play that game. I won't keep you safe. Time that I relocate. Don't play that game. Shawty, don't play that game. I won't keep you safe. Time that I relocate. Don't play that game. Shawty, don't play that game. I know my place.
Alright, that'll be better. I think we're going to continue some progress here on old Chuck Dogwood. We just have to, apparently, after a reboot here, we have a little focus issue on the camera. So bear with. We will get rid of the autofocus. That seems much better. There we go. Where my paintbrushes are right now, but we'll get it rolling. Let's see. Let's get started with some leathers. At least get the base coats in. Yeah, so Chuck here has this nice belt. We'll start here. Vakil says good morning, day, evening, or whatever it is where everyone's at. Hope you are all well. Good morning, and I hope things are going well for you out there. I have a different music setup today, so please let me know where the volume's at for that, if it's a little loud or not. any needed adjustments there. DJ Delete, good morning. I hope you are well. Let's get this in here. Music sounds good on my end. Perfect. When I first turned it on, because it's coming through my browser and not Spotify or anything, it was just blowing me out. So I was like adjusting some levels on the fly. Hope everybody had a good weekend. Something enjoyable. I know things have been weird lately. What else could we use this leather on? He has the strapping on his staff here. Let's at least do that. Let's also mix this up a bit. So like right there we laid down the browns on his belt. I'm like, that looks good. Like we're fully saturated, it's good. Hexnet, good morning. Pixie, welcome on in. I think if we coming in with a big subscription on Monday morning, a 3-month anniversary, look out. Let's try this. I think this could look good. I'm going to take a little bit of this Scrag Brown. We're going to add it onto the palette. It's kind of like a Jason color here. Oh no, Pixie, not with the headache. Those will ruin a whole day. I haven't used these two browns together, but I got this Scrag sitting here looking at me, so I'm just thinking, let's see what'll happen if we mix them up. I think we get like a nice worn look here in some of these areas. And so I'm gonna take my darker brown here, my Rhinox hide. Is that what that is? Yeah, Rhinox hide. Lay that in the recess here. And up under here. I'm gonna take that Scrag Brown, not cleaning off my brush or anything. We'll just lay that down in these highlights. Just see how that looks. It's got a nice tonal variation in there. Nothing crazy. And super contrasted. Since I have my highlight color on the brush, we'll just put it down here. We're already loaded up with that darker color in the back portions of the bristles, so we'll just start putting it down already. It's one fun thing, if you have your paintbrush loaded up with different colors, you can just, with a different amount of pressure, lay down a different color. Get these fun variations in between doing it that way as well. Get this moved here a little bit. I like doing the wet blending like this because I find you get some little tonal shifts that you probably wouldn't have thought of to mix up. And for things like leather and skin, you just get louder. Anyway, yeah, like with certain colors, like when you're painting skin tones or when you're painting even fabrics, it's like a very positive thing to have them blended together like this and have a couple different colors going on. And I think the other hidden value here is, since I'm such a nut for highlights and shadows, I think it saves me time because I have a natural highlight and shadow already on a thing. And I haven't even really done anything other than base coat it, you know? You can work and rework or not. You know, depending on depending on the extent to which you want to go. And let me just get the top of this and then we'll spin him. That might be enough highlight and shadow for you. You might already just be set there. Pixie says, how are you doing? I'm doing good. I'm feeling good as I can for being under exercised. Poor dieted right now with everything that's been going on. I've just been off the rails, so to speak. You know, a time like this is probably the time, if any, to dial it all in. But I've been getting some work done around the house. Ran some Ethernet cable yesterday and somewhat on Saturday. And got a few things around the house together, like wired up a couple access points I've been meaning to do for too long now. And that little ounce of productivity always makes me feel good. wooden bench. Was I building a wooden bench? Oh, my table, yes. I did also do some sanding on that. My wife and I did some sanding there. And it's coming together. So now we have to start to rub the finish on, which we're going to do a Rubio finish. I think that's the name of the brand we settled on. It's like a pretty simple rub-on kind of finish. Like bonds and hardens in with the wood. And then there's a couple cracks in it and some deep knots. And so then we're going to go through and pour some resin on it, which I will get you all updates on that once that starts. It should be soon. Especially since the weather's been nice enough to get outside and do all the sanding. Oh, you're fine. Had it been any later in the day, I would have known what you meant immediately. But I'm out here still sleeping a little bit. This poor camera is just never gonna not wash me out anymore. I think it's just dying. I don't even have any harsh light in here. What we could do, I'll try this. It's like a bad combination of a failing camera and my super paleness. Let's see. What color would look good in here? What do we think? Maybe. Let's see if that helps any. DJ got a post. Oh, let me check. Or Hexneck, sorry. I saw you playing a Warhammer match recently. Yeah, I went over to my neighbors. Oh, look out, Hex. Those trees are awesome. I love the depth of the canopy there. Yeah, I went over to my neighbors and we stood across the 6-foot table and rolled some dice at each other. It was a good, maintained a distance and whatnot, but I just had to get out and do something, even if it was just across the street, you know. But I played Orcs versus Grey Knights to see how that matchup would go. And I ended up winning with the Orcs, but I don't think the mission wasn't good for the Grey Knights playstyle. I don't know that that's a good matchup for them in general. Here on the belt, I'm just going to get some of that original dark tone and then some highlight color. And then I played Tau versus Ravengard, and I lost. The game was close score-wise, but it was not close. I was never in a position after turn 3 to do too much. We're just using some of that original tone as we layer in our highlight to keep things blended. Danny M, hey dude, what up, my guy? How are you today, Danny? So when we do this, we're gonna bring that blend not only like laterally here, we're gonna also work these recesses here in the front as well. Sometimes that could be stippling, which in this case, because we got a kind of a triple textured monster on our hands, we're going to do it that way. Yeah, I think the Grey Knight matchup would have went the same way a dozen times over. I think with the Orcs, the Tau, I simply need to be better to play them more correctly. They're very unforgiving in that respect. I would akin the Tau to a glass hammer. They deliver so much power, but they're very unforgiving. Because I am a bit of a competitive person, it is good for me to have something like that, because I can sit back and kind of meditate on that. Like, you lost this game because you had every opportunity to win it. Understanding a little bit more about how the Raven Guard play as well was helpful. Or will be helpful on the next one. I'm gonna bet I got probably 6 or 8 more just novice losses in me, and then we'll start dialing it in real hard. Yeah, that's right, Pixie. You know, if you're playing, you'd brought up the other day about not wanting to play Marines because everybody's playing them. Kind of, if I was reading you correctly. You're not wanting to do what everybody else is doing, and that's good. But, you know, the reason why a lot of people play them is because at the end of the day, if you make a mistake, you're still playing Marines, and they are damn resilient. Just add a little block of shadow there. Bring this. I think this belt is just too dynamic for just these 2 colors. I'm going to introduce another one. A little Doom Bowl brown. I have not caught that yet. What I don't know that I think Siegler is he's got that, I don't know what you want to call it. His movement is near perfect. Yeah. I mean, we're talking about 2 incredible players, so there'll be lessons to learn on both sides either way. Okay. Oh, I like that color quite a bit. So, yeah. Just because there's so much distance here, we're going to introduce a 3rd color. Lay this shadow color down. That Rhinox hide. And now we'll do that Doom Bowl brown coming out here, quite a bit of that, and then up front. Now we'll work towards the Doom Bowl for the scrag. Now we have that nice, wow, super rough in the back. Here, let me fix this shadow area. That's on me. Didn't really blend too well back there. And all it is to do that is just, you gotta have enough paint, number 1. So there we go. Let's lay down some wet paint, and then you just agitate them together. super forgiving, so you can just go back and forth till you get it right. Whatever you're happy with. Siegler loves red. He's been playing, what, Farsight Enclave lately? From what I understand. Look, Pixie, if nothing else lets you know that I am oddly competitive about things, I'm not even really playing. I'm just casually observing and like playing other people's armies. Like, all those armies I was playing the other night, they're all local armies that I was able to borrow and play test. But like, I'm not even in the game, and I'm following these same people. Like, we're very, very closely watching. Talvi Grey Knights, oh man. I'll watch Manny play anything, really, just to see his decision making. At this point, we're going to start to define the volumes a little bit better. So instead of looking at them like blocks of color, like we had been, let me get this. Since we decided to introduce this third color, we're going to get it introduced to both sides first. Yeah, the Farsight, for sure. I think those Cold Star Commanders are incredibly, incredibly powerful right now. They put out damn near the same kind of firepower as a Riptide. And with those missile pods, it's like, oh god. You want to bring infantry? Boy, do we have a solution for you. Enough contrast, you might actually have to bring that darkest tone in. Let's get a little water. Just get a glaze. Let's check our consistency here. It's a little too subtle for what we're doing today. That's probably more accurate. So a fairly light consistency, but manually applying it to the recesses here. Probably even afford to go a little bit heavier. What do you think about the Farsight Enclave there, Pixie? I know it's been Tau Ceti for so long. Here's a secret about glazing. I like to get much of the excess off the brush. And so in that way, I'm not like washing the model. I'm actually able to paint the recess. I'm actually using the glaze not to thin the paint down so that it's thin and will be translucent, but rather so that it'll sink into the recesses. Cut the surface tension of it. At least in this case, a lot of times you are filtering with it, but something to keep in mind. Yeah. On these wraps, I missed a little bit of coverage. Kind of dig that belt. That's a fun build up, for sure. Yeah, that I don't think. I mean, we've had a number of conversations on that now, and that's just not you, huh? Well, one thing that the Enclave has with those Cold Start commanders is the capacity to, fly 60 inches when you need to. But are you saying that is you would play your Tau differently, or Tau just might not be your thing? What are we? I did not deploy in a corner like that, and I think that was part of what went wrong when I fought the Raven Guard. I'm introducing a more ochre-y brown here. Let's see what this looks like as our highlight color. Ochre just means it's yellow, you know. So in this case, this is a Baylor brown. So we put all these red browns and orange browns down, and now we got a yellowy brown. So we're all in the same family, you know. Everybody gets along. What's wrong? Well, hey! Welcome on in. You'd love to play Tau differently. There you go. Gonna take some play testing to get there. Yeah, we're just working on some leathers this morning, chatting about playing games of 40K. This happens to be a model from Privateer Press's Riot Quest. It is Chuck Dogwood. He's really, really cool. Lamenting over Tau not being super aggressive when it comes to play style, but I mean, I don't know, man. I think the thing about the Tau that makes them so darn good, if you can play them correctly, is that as the game goes on with all those drones, they don't lose any firepower. It's like turn over turn, they're taking away more and more of your offensive capacity, where round after round they keep the same because all you're doing is killing the drones. And that can feel demoralizing. The thing is, the moment you crack that shell, and that's it. At this stage, I oftentimes like to take my highlights a little further than they should be. Be a little bolder with them, and then we can always bring them back. And so let's do the same thing here on the belt. Here across the front, we ought to be able to take it quite a bit higher. I don't know about anybody else, but it has been so windy here the past couple of days. Like scary windy. I will fix the music here in just a second. I do kind of like the look of that so far. A little more of this orange in here. Get a little mixture of the two. Feather them together. Light touch. Good to go. How do you know which color to match? Well, that is a solid question. Give me just a moment here while I can probably walk and talk here while I'm fixing the music. So whenever you're working with colors like here, I'm working with browns, but browns are just a desaturated color. And so there's some color theory involved in what's going to happen next. And what are we in the mood for? Well, let's just go. I think this will work. So when we look at this, we have this is a multi-part piece here, Pixie. You don't. You just have to look at them. And so on a color wheel, what we have here is we've got this Rhinox hide, and this has a lot of red in it. This is kind of like a pinky red or a pinky brown, because when you put white into it, it gets kind of pink. You just need to play around with adding colors together to see what kind of pigments you have. And that's how I know that this has red in it. And so when we look at this next color, this is just a brighter color here. So we had Rhinox hide, and this is Doombull brown. This one just has more red in it. And when we get up here to the next one, this Scrag, it's kind of orangey. It's like it's taking this and further desaturating it towards like a like from the red, now we're getting it more into the orange. And then when we look at the Baylor, now we're getting into yellow. And so when you look at your color wheel, when you work from red to orange to yellow, that's all we're doing. It doesn't have to be these browns. It could easily be, you know, colors from a different company that do the same thing. Like, here's a nice red brown from Privateer Press, this Bloodstone. It's very good for, I use this color a lot. And here's Blood Tracker. So we're just further taking it from red to like yellow. Now for me, this yellow is really desaturated, and so I really like the yellow that comes out of this Baylor brown. For me, I would like my colors to be bolder, because I can always mute them back. I can't make them more vibrant. So for me, this blood tracker isn't a brown that I use very often. I'm very much more into bolder colors like this one, and then I'll mute them back to something less by adding in like a black or a white or something that'll mute it. You can do that by taking, like if you look at a color wheel and you're working with a warm red tone, anything that would be in that blue purple area will desaturate it, and so you can kind of play that game a little bit. Like for example, we're about to introduce my favorite color, this sanguine base, as a shadow for these browns. So you can see what we're working with here. And so this is not super contrasting, because it's not like we're shifting, like red goes into blue, and then you get those purple tones when you mix them together, and that's all this guy is going to do for us. A little bit of water to glaze this. I'm going to mix it together with a shadow color, that Rhinox hide. It's mostly Rhinox hide right now. Let's get a little bit of this together, and now we get a nice purpley tone. Provided we get enough water in it. If I get that consistency right, there we go. Just get the excess out. Let's see. What a nice wash of this won't do for us. I'm just pulling this towards the recesses all the way around, and we'll let that dry. Purples and browns go really, really well together, especially if you're using like-minded colors like we are here. There's plenty of ways to do this, and I'm sure different artists have different approaches, but if this was for a tabletop guy and you weren't too worried about them, you don't have to do all these color transitions. You could probably get away with just 2 high contrasted and then a wash and be done. But for me, especially at this hour, I like to practice, train things. So let's smooth up this side, because I've worked this a couple of times now and I haven't been happy with the transitions, and most of that has to do with how long this strap is over here. It's kind of challenging. So we're laying down our first that Rhinox hide, and then we're going to come in here with the Doom Bull Brown, and we're going to start here. I'm going to lay down the paint, and then I'm going to start to agitate my brush and push that Rhinox hide back. And I think right there's a good spot to stop. And I don't know if I didn't have enough paint down or what, but it didn't really blend. So we're going to lay down some Rhinox hide and push them together here. You have to have enough paint to get them to mix, or it won't do the magic. It won't do the trick. And then, since it took us a second, we'll just reapply up here that orangey tone. And I'm going to bring it up a bit higher than it needs to be. And bring in our baler. Again, there wasn't enough to get them to blend on the first pass, so we'll get a little bit more. Generate a nice transition color there. And Pixie, the question you asked is one that had tormented me for quite a while. When I would watch people do things like this and wonder how and why they were making the selections that they were. And so for the longest time I was a slave to the color recipe oh, what color are you using here, and why this this color, and I'd run out and buy the paint and try it. The truth of it is, you can use any brand of paint, and you just need the right kind of pigments in them. Expand on that. Do you always stay close to the color? In terms of when you're transitioning them, are you trying to keep them like yellow to orange to red? Because sometimes you want to kick a color. Like when I do my marine cloaks, and I would bring in the teal. That's like the super advanced one. So in general, you want to stick with colors that are going to work from one to the next. But then there are reasons to break that rule. There's a reason why you want to introduce the opposing one. So when I was working with those Marines, we used like those cloaks. We had this hex lichen, which is so darn dark purple it's almost black. Yeah, you would typically go darker in the shadow, but sometimes that's exactly the case, right? So here we did this for the cloak, highlight color to dark color, and I mixed in, actually it was Baylor is what I used to desaturate the red as the highlight. So this is in the very bottoms of the cloaks, this is the mid-tone, and these two together are the highlights. So I guess these two together are the mid-tone. And then in the very darkest shadows is this teal. Why is that in there? Because when you find it on the color wheel and you go directly opposing it, you find this color. Ooh, actually, I have... Why am I doing this when I have Friar Tuck here? So Friar Tuck is supposed to go to his home here over Adepticon when I drove through Columbus, but that didn't happen this year because it got canceled. So we're gonna have to mail him. But when you see this vibrant green on his skin, and you look opposing on the color wheel, you find this nice burgundy color. And so these two are contrasting, and so they make sense in that way. But we wouldn't mix the burgundy with the green, if that makes sense. So occasionally you want to introduce a color into a different aspect of the model that is totally on the other side. It's why a blue armor with a red cloak always has something to it. Like when you look at that red fabric against that cold blue armor, you're like, there's something there. And you can even get more advanced because every color has a hot and a cold version of it. So when you look at yellow, like yellow's pretty hot, but there's going to be yellow that gets more towards the green, and there's going to be yellow that gets more towards the orange. And then there's primary, and the primary should be true north, so to speak. And so when you mix them, like we've been mixing these browns, all of our browns have been, like our red brown wasn't shifting towards purple, it was shifting towards orange. And then our orange brown was shifting like pretty between them, and then the yellow brown is kind of even a little bit further north. But the yellow's not cold, it's still warm, and the red is not cold, it's still warm, so to speak. And so forth. We could do a whole thing on that. Maybe that should be something I write up for the Patreon, because we can get into the weeds on that thing. But you can also just keep it simple and play fast and loose with it. So if you don't want to get crazy color theory, you don't have to, but there's still some very simple rules to remember. One of them is, when you're working colors together, just know that there is warm and colds of all colors. So blue gets warmer as it turns more purple because it's turning more red, so it's going hotter. And blue gets cooler the more green it goes. It's weird. Meanwhile, red getting colder the more purple it goes, right? So now we can see this nice transition. Yes, the Chimera paints are a flawless. Thank you for that. Look no further than why these are the way that they are. Oh goodness, almost through them. Like when you look at the blues, because blue is such a complex set of colors, you have something pretty neutral, pretty cool, pretty warm. And that's how they do it. These kinds of triads are king. And it's not like you're working with a Reaper style triad where things are so tight to one another. Because these quite literally work their way around the wheel for you. A lot of people would think that to mix all the colors you just need a red, a yellow, and blue. But the reality is you need like 2 of each color, like to really get your way around the wheel. And when you want to get more complex, you need even more subtle transitions. So that's what we have here with Chimera. You have your cold yellow, you have your warm yellow, and then you have your neutraler yellow. And that's a good way to look at it, because you can see how much orange you have here, and that you can't go too much with it. So you have like an icy yellow, which is very similar to an ice yellow that you have through Vallejo, but with the Chimera, they're pure pigment, so you can see that there's a lot more rich color. That same thing I complained about, and why I don't like the Blood Tracker brown, because it was more desaturated. Like, I like more pigment in my colors because that helps me. Like, you can always desaturate. You know, the reason why we don't like the lower of these 2 colors. And then you get the same thing over here in the reds. You got a neutral red, you got your orangey red, and then you start getting your cooler red, this oxide. And it's the way of it. Once you start to see that little bit of color theory, you can start to apply it to other things when you're making your color selections. So here across this top piece, we're going to drag our highlight down further than it was. But just on this ridge, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm actually going to add a second layer up here on the top for the yellow, because it'll get brighter as I saturate it. But yeah, Pixie, I'm intending here over the next couple of weeks, once we see how all of our quarantines shake out and what's going on with my work, I'm probably going to invest in a nicer camera that I can start making some actual video content. And you've given me a very good idea for an initial video. I've got a handful of questions over the past couple of weeks that have really struck for me, and something like that might make a nice quick bit of content, because I can cover very quickly something like we just did that can make sense for everybody, but then we can hit level 2. Like there's your how to get from your white belt introduction, and now you can play your game, and then we hit that blue belt level, so forth as you build up, because there's levels to everything. So what I'm doing here is I'm just trying to pick out these highlighted edges and bring this highlight down further and further. On this larger smooth surface, we want to be careful. That's how far back we're going to bring that yellow, but we're going to take our next color, that orange, and that's going to be our highlight as we go furthest back here into these darker recesses. I don't know that I'll be able to use the nicer camera on stream or not. I don't know how that works just yet, but we'll figure it out. Yeah, it's the biggest reason why you're hearing the music that you're hearing right now is because I wanted to try to figure out a royalty-free solution for music that would work for YouTube and be similar to the stream content. So we made a little purchase and we got some smoother jams. I had to go through and pick out some music that I like now, go from there, but music licensing is a weird one. So yeah, unlike before, I'm pretty happy with that. So we'll push our highlights a little bit here on this other side, but this side over here is going to be our light pocket. So over here we're going to be working with our darker tones is all. Our highlights will never come quite as far. Oh yeah, for basic stuff. But I think it's important to recognize the fact that I've only been at this a few years, and a lot of these things that you're asking for, like advanced artists, they might think, oh, I haven't considered that as even something that they've thought about for a number of years. And for me, what you're asking me, I'm like, oh, I just crossed that bridge like a year ago, Dark tone in there. As I work with these colors, I'm finding which ones I like more than others. So sometimes as I'm working through a process like this, I might have a bunch of transitions and then I'll realize that like, oh, this color doesn't really have too much of an effect and I'll want to get rid of it. We're going to also start working with a different style of grip in preparation for a nicer camera, because I won't be able to just hold a model like this and have a good depth with bokeh. So you're gonna see something change up here where I'll be able to mount the model and pivot it. I don't know what that looks like yet, but we'll be starting to practice with that. You still getting to work or also work from home now? No, I am still working. I'll be going to work today, but I am in the office still, which is not my favorite, but let me get that purpley glaze. I don't think I'm ready for it. I'm not happy with this transition just yet. There's some of this darker color in here. There's too much paint. But I am happy to still be working. A lot of people getting laid off right now. It's scary business. It's like you got enough going on with the death tolls and people being sick. Gotta add that on top of it. Working from home now. Yeah, it's complicated, right? Because just not having the option makes you feel trapped by it, you know? Like, it's not a bad thing in general, but it'd be nice for most people to have that as an option most times, most days. Like on a day like today where you're already not feeling super great because of the headache, it would be nice to have that option with a lot of jobs to be able to work from home for a little bit. But you know, just because you don't get to choose that can be very frustrating. So I'm gonna rip this highlight color a little bit into the shadows here. Wicked Jexter, good morning, good morning. How are you today, sir? Gracing us with your presence. We're talking color theory. We're talking quarantine. We're doing it all. We're talking wet blends. We know about fresh blends. Smoother than a fade over here. Look at that. Yeah. Hey, you be more so than just about everybody else. You got to be careful. It's not something to play with, like at all. I know a couple of my friends, and you know, we got a lot of diabetics over here, and it you know, they're bad enough, let alone where you're at with your immune system, you know. Jack says, doing good, feeling much better this week, so I'm able to be up early again. That's awesome. Looking great so far. Well, thank you. Chuck Dogwood agrees. What color, anybody wants to vote, do you think we should do the outside of his cloak? You know, with these guys, I'm tying red into every one of the models because they're on a team, but they all need to look different. So like for Chuck here, we got his red as the lining. I didn't want to do a super vibrant red cloak the whole way over. I thought that was a little too much. Hey, Jax, thank you. Using them emotes. You can see this yellow's just not losing. Oh, man. Not to say that it's losing its vibrance, but when these colors dry, they mute out. So you can come back through and add another layer. And because we're working with a leather, I can use this as an excuse to not make a perfectly smooth blend. We can sit here and stipple the area. which will add vibrancy a little bit at a time. It says perhaps green, like the woods. Oh yeah, well he is. It's wonderful that you picked that color because his faction in the game, they do wear a beautiful green color. Like a nice rich emerald color. I actually might even have the faction specific green. It's not on the rack. I may have also lent it to a friend, which is complicated to say where that might be right now. Bear with me a moment. I'm going to grab the couple agitators for this. How long this has been sitting, but a while. The green for this faction is Iosian green, but I don't see it. Take a second. Kind of like this darker green to start, if we're gonna do it. All that. Not a big fan of what it's looking like. Watch, I'm gonna look around my desk and I'll find that Iosian green before we get there. What makes sense next? What would we want to whip into the green? Some kind of phthalo blue. Let's have a look. I don't know that I have any of the phthalos. The mighty Chris. Good morning, Inks. How are you today? You had quite a few updates over the weekend, projects you're working on. I was a little envious getting some work done out there. This will be the first Chimera color I've actually drip droppled out onto the board here. Ooh. That is nice. What time is it? Oh, good, we do have time. We're gonna play with these. This is major. Alright, let's see what this looks like. Pixie says, my friend's birthday is soon, so we split the big Batman box, so I'm painting all his models. Oh, that's awesome. Inks, what all comes in that? And I think we'll take it to Violet in the Shadows. So, Pixie, we'll do in honor of the color theory we've been talking about. We'll do this whole green in the Chimera colors. Now, this goes poorly. Know that this is my first time using these particular paints. So it's a learning experience. So what we have here is I'm taking their phthalo green as the mid. I've got phthalo blue as the I guess it's the blue to the green, and we got phthalo green to the. Oh, Aaron, what happened? Oh no, we got raided. I'm over here talking about colors. What? And either I didn't hear it, or something else happened. What are you doing? Aaron, good day. Six Thugs, sorry. Inks was just telling us getting to paint up some sweet Batman minis soon from the, I'm assuming that's a Night Models, Inks? Aaron, how was the stream? Coming in with the funky bang. Dark Knight Models nailed it. How was the stream for everybody? Hope things went well. They generally do with Aaron. He's super capable. And it says, dude, great fun. Drax helped me fix 2 airbrushes that were not working for me, a chrome and a Sotar. I've never used the chrome before and fell in love with it. The chrome is my favorite. So Drax is the man when it comes to the airbrushes. What was wrong with him? So I'm just going to lay down some of this green up here. Boop, boop, boop. Don't mind this big old brush. We're getting that good coverage here. Grab some of this yellow. Let's add it in here for our highlights. Let's catch up with what's going on with Aaron's life here. I'll catch you here in just a second, Inks. Aaron says, it had arrived with the needle tip in the front, not on the tube of the main body of the brush. Same issue with the Sotar, but I did that to that one too. It arrived with the needle tip in the front, not on the tube. The main body of the brush. I'm not sure I understand what happened there. Sounds wild though. Sketching in some of this purple while we chat. Trying to figure out what actually is going on with that. It sounds weird though. Like that doesn't make any sense. Why would it come that way? But just painting these shadows into place. Super sketchy, but we'll smooth out here soon. Needle tip was in the front section instead of the seated on top of the body with the midsection sealing it. Okay. That doesn't sound like they even tried to test fire it. You wouldn't find that unless you had to completely tear it down to figure that out. Create a yeah. Huh. I'm more impressed that it happened. Like how whoever managed to do it. I'd be like, that's interesting. Thank you so much, Archulax. And anybody else that gave a follow there in the beginning and I didn't catch the notifications. Thank you so much for the follows and making that corgi do his happy little wiggle. Yeah, I know this is super sketchy, but I think that's important to the process to whip those shadows into place. Because then you can come back through and find your highlights again. I think that's so much of it. It's my first experience with the Chimera paints as well. And so far, they're nice. And it says I got both brushes during my birthday sale, so thinking they were rushing to... Yeah, is that so those are refurbs? light color in here again. Got Chrome for 55 and the Sotar for 56. Huh. Man, that's a heck of a deal. It'd be a heck of a deal on a Patriot, to be honest. 50, just a few dollars. I don't think you could ask for a better quality product at that price. And how nice that it was just a simple reassembly to fix you up. Still worth noting that they should be on top of that. They're a pretty good company. It's nice whenever you hear a story like this and like that's the rarity. You know, how many airbrushes did they just turn out for everybody? And if that's the worst of it, I'd call that a success on their part. But you know, what if you hadn't bumped into somebody in the know? So that's probably. Aaron says, yeah, those are the birthday sales. 54 was 105, 55th the Chrome, 56 the Sotar. I bought my Patriot. I don't know where I got my Patriot. I got a Sotar. I won off of a contest online, which was like, you know, everybody always says I never win anything. I never win anything. I won that, and that was fun. And then I want to say I got Patriot and Chrome off the birthday sale, the first one. I didn't expect it to become a yearly thing, but it did. Just playing around with these mixtures to find the color of green that I like, and I think this is the one. Thank you, Cold Touch. Thank you so much. Aaron says, oh dude, speaking of winning things, I won my first painted mini from Steam yesterday. It was from Pascal. That little chibi officer. Aquarium? Thank you so much for that follow. Let me get rid of much of this blue. I wasn't sure my thoughts on it, but it's going. Stick with the violet and the recesses instead of the blue. When the Otto was his name. I saw him working on that. I wouldn't say that Pascal and I are friends by any stretch, but he's an artist whom I respect greatly, and I'm just not trying to like name drop the fact that we've chatted about a couple things, but we have, and he's just been nice enough to answer. he's truly, truly talented, and it's kind of fantastic that you were able to win something from an artist with that kind of talent. Aaron says that breaks a 3.5-year non-winning streak. I felt like a Red Sox fan. Oh, the Red Sox! I got to agree with you there. Bring in our highlight color across the top here and probably here. I'm going to bring that purpley green. Kind of using the model as my palette here as I try to figure out where these colors make sense. It's one of the most fantastic parts of learning to wet blend early on in your painting is it's so darn forgiving. Kind of helps you learn that you don't need to be worried about where your colors are going so much. You can kind of figure it out. Other styles, like, you have to really be a technician to start seeing good results. In the web blend, you can like work it back and forth and get things where you need them. Aaron says, KK, well, time for me to head off to the Wild Black yonder, looking for leftovers from last night and searching for truth in cartoon form, homie. Thank you for the stream. Really loving the greens and dark blues. So thank you so much. We're working through this. We did some leathers earlier. And Aaron, as always, it's great to catch up. Might actually change what portions of Chuck are actually red. This green might be a little too much in contrast with that inner lining. We don't want him to start looking like Santa Claus. Here I think we're starting to find the actual highlight color that makes the most sense for him. In mid-tone. Ink says, I'm really happy with the Batman. I did a good job painting him, but I hate his sculpt. James Scholar and gentlemen, sir, mañana. Hasta luego. Inks, I think that what don't you like about the sculpt? How aggressive the cloak is, or I would have to see more of the, see it more directions to really know. Alright, so I'm pulling this highlight down way further than it should be. Mostly so that when we go to work it back, we can kind of feather it out. So let's do that again. And that's exactly what I was talking about, the wet blending, where you kind of work from end to end. When you're not happy or content or things aren't working out correctly, you just, paints are still wet. You just work them more. So as we work towards our shadow color, we're going to put our shade down here, grab our mid-tone, and come back up. Just like that, we're kind of smooth. And we do it at the other end as well. Take a little bit of our darker tone, work them together, and then we can highlight them out here at the tails. Probably way too much paint, but we'll work that out here in a second as well. Yeah, I really don't like the reds anymore, but I still like the idea, so give them a nice purple lining and we'll figure out what else we can work the red onto. Maybe it'll just be his little socket puppet. Could be. Jan, you envision, hey pal. Hey, back at you, Jan. How are you this morning? Hopefully well. There we go. Shaking things up. Doc Holiday. Holla holla. Pixie says, nice color combo. I'm gone for a sec, and the whole cloak is looking sick. Welcome back in. Shouts out to Inks. Jan says, doing grand, boss. Just got home from the grocery. Yeah. It's an interesting time, Jan. I gotta get some groceries here tonight. I went to the store on Saturday to pick some things up, and I was like, this is the first time in like a long time where I'm about to message my mother and make sure they don't need anything while I'm out, because I don't want them going out if they don't need to. You know? Jen, I see you make a post about Chimera paints the other day. Was that last night or something? I remember seeing something about your face with next to some slick paint. Yeah, I think I found the shape there. Sometimes it's hard to find the volumes on a robe, especially. Just as me, not me. I do not have the Chimera paints, but I want to need a sacred bit up here. Okay. Maybe it was somebody that was promoting on your Discord then. I'm in like 1,000 Discords, and I don't understand how it happened. Like, why does everybody have one? I don't know. I mean, I have one, so I'm not like disparaging it. I just sometimes I can't keep it straight. That's on me. see these instructions real quick, Inks. Oh my. Yeah, that'll do it to you. We got the Chicken Main 88. Thank you. Hi, how are you? Welcome on in. We're sketching in some green highlights here. Mixing some colors to get there, so things are quite sketchy at the moment, but we should be able to get them in a good place before we have to depart for the day. Especially up here on the shoulder, we want to, might be a little bit too vibrant, you know. Maybe went a little too hard in the paint. Doc's got the dad jokes today. They got a folder system. I don't know what I'm gonna do with all this studding design that he has here. I don't understand it. I don't know what it is. Is it just like beads? Am I supposed to do them like a beaded blankie or something? Like, what is that? I don't know. Anytime my news app goes off, I get afraid to look. But I'm more nervous not to look, you know? Oh, yes. Sorry, Doc. Inks was talking about all the folds in the cloak. I thought you were cracking a dad joke. No, I use them. I use them to separate them. But that doesn't help the fact that I don't, I mean, it's too many. I'm in too many. So many of them are just silenced, like there's no reason to be in them other than to be polite. Maybe I need someone to show me how to keep up with it all. I'm old. What am I going to do? Jack says, sorry, coffee still hasn't kicked in. Taking a sweet time today. Jack's just sitting there looking at the cup. Start working. Oh, man. We're starting to make sense of these. I laid down the blue, and I'm not a big fan of the blue, so we're kind of gradually closing that blue out of here. I do like the purple, though. We're keeping that. Hang on a second. The brush is too finely detailed for all this business. Sometimes you just got to get a bigger brush, lay some paint down, you know what I'm saying? Especially these damnable beads. Alright. Jack says, I loaded these cups up too close to espresso quality. What's that? I loaded these cups up. I'm going to grab a little bit of this purple here and we're going to pack it into the recesses where we're still wet. Normally, like I joke about using the model as the palette. So like on my wet palette, I would mix up the purple and the green and start blending them together to make these subtle transitions. But when you lay down the color wet and you still have like so much of that green down, you don't go back and like mix up a blend. You just grab your next color, your purple, and you start working it together. So like here, I'm just grabbing my straight green. I'm gonna bring it down in here and like feather out where that purple was, and that's it. Paint it up a little bit higher onto these ridges because they'd be shaded as well. And we'll start grabbing that next color. That green as it starts sipping into the yellow. You know we're still blend, 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 blend. Nalsack, well, hello. Welcome on in. Don't know why I said your name like that, but I did it. Hope you're having a good morning. Potentially evening. I shouldn't presume to know. This beaded area is just bugging me. I know everybody kind of jokes about me using a real big brush, but it's a fact. I use big paintbrushes. It's funny because I'm stuck in a moment where like I don't know how to like fix this area around the beads, so you're getting to see me like work colors back and forth quite a bit here. Now Sex says, yeah, getting ready to paint, I think. Oh, there you go. I'm just trying to find these volumes little by little for what that's worth. And today is a bit of a struggle for some reason, but no excuses. Just keep working, push through it, so to speak. I think up here we'll actually add a little bit more of this green. Sometimes when you look at different artists' work, it's always like the tip of the iceberg. You only ever see the success. You never get to see the failures that led to it. And so when you stop in here, you get to see all those little back and forths that it takes. And trust me, the more professional people get, the less of this they have to do. But this is just the process. I'm not nearly as deliberate as a lot of people. But with practice, it's less and less of it. That's why I think me getting into wet blending as early as I did was super helpful. I don't know why it looks so blue. I guess that's just the nature of it, huh? On the camera, at least. Rid of this red here. I'm really not a fan of it now. We'll get it worked in somewhere else. Maybe I'll work it into the glow of his staff or something. Come with some energy on that. We'll see. A lot of times with color selection you can, you know, if all you're doing is base coating, you might change your mind a few times. Which is, I think, where we're at here. Just pushing these highlights a little bit too far in places, and then we'll be able to glaze them back here soon. This is one thing I've learned in the last year or so, is that you can do some pretty incredible things if you just push your contrast a little bit further. Sun Soothsayer says, what miniature is that? This is Chuck Dogwood from Privateer Press. Danny M says, a little different from your fists. How you keeping with the isolation? I'm doing what I can, Danny. You know, I'm still going into the office for work, so for as long as that's going on, I'll probably stay sane. But it is a struggle, you know. This glaze consistency is pretty strong, but so here we've pushed our colors a little bit too far, and I'm coming back with that mid-tone, just kind of glazing it over. Back here won't have such a stark effect, but it will start to appeal. Oh no! Chuck is a metal model. He's a little heavy, top heavy. Yeah, this is from Privateer Press for the game Riot Quest. It's a really fun tabletop game. Charles Dogwood III. No, I don't know. Just goofing. How separate is your home office work from your hobby area? I do not work from home, But this area here is actually, so my wife and I are doing a remodel, and this is going to eventually be our dining room. You can see in the back here, we have trim for our kitchen and a door that needs to go up. Well, it came down, but I didn't want to get rid of. The trim needs to go up. Like crown molding, I guess is the right term. But I'm a ninny, and I can't just say that. I gotta. Yeah, Minnie was nearly down, huh? We're getting blown up over here. Alright. So this is Charles's wash here, or glaze, for his highlight starts to tone down. Just coming back through, refining those highlights little by little. We work our way back. We're just little by little, it's more and more yellow, huh? Kind of stippling it on here because it is a hood. $7.23. So we got to start looking for a raid target. Is there anybody online right now we could start considering to go visit? Yeah, thank you, Danny. We're doing what we can. Sud says, is it Sudsy Sutherland? Is that how you would say that? Sudsy says, I prefer the feel of good solid metal to plastic or resin. Sneeze and the plastics go flying. Gently caress and the metals go chip, chip, chip. But yeah, I like the feel of the metal models myself. Call me, maybe it's an old school thing, but I do. Danny M. Orthober's on? Orthober's usually wrapping up at this time, but yeah, if he's on, we'll go see him. Oh, hell. I need to PayPal that man. Oh, no. Oh, no. I was meant to do that on Friday. Ugh. I'm the worst. Well, I feel like the worst would probably just scummily never get somebody back. I ordered some grips for my patrons off of him. So we'll do that. Let's just refine these a little bit. Sloppy paint strokes that I'm making here. Just take that glaze, help make some sense of it. Take that glaze to the front as well again. But the leathers came in pretty nicely today, I think. Glaze that, don't I? Orthober, good morning. I was just looking for a raid target. Somebody brought up your name, and I was like, oh, yeah, we could go do that. And I went, oh, hell, I was supposed to PayPal that man. Friday or something. Oh, in too many days. As soon as I raid out here, we're gonna square you away. Brain fart if I've ever had one. But I hope your weekend went well, sir. Ugh. What might be worse, now we've got to find a raid target. Sudsy Sutherland, thank you so much for that follow. I do just want to put one more before I depart. That was way too much paint. Please don't dry. Don't do that to me. Don't do it. Crocodile. Perfect. Just say something to the Aussies. Mad respect to Australia. Great artists, better people. But yeah. I like that. So he says I'm remoting in, so my work computer is near my hobby area. Not sure that was a good thing though. Danger zone. Shy just landed. I haven't talked to Shy in a minute. If we're gonna go to Shy, we gotta go now. He's probably gonna sit there and load up his stream for the next 20 minutes though. I do want to go. I gotta catch up with Shy. Let's just head off to Crocodile. That's what we'll do. Or brushes on. Yeah, let's go see Brush for Hire. Alright, everybody. Thank you for hanging out. Help me pick a nice color for this cloak to go up against these nice red tones in the leathers. Thanks, shouting out to Danny. Painted a belt today. Very crudely started working on some greens. But we'll get there and we'll get there. All right, everybody. I hope you had a great weekend and hopefully you'll have a wonderful start to your week. There was, since we're on staggered start times, so I don't have to be to work till 7:30. Decent. With there says it didn't get to paint as much as I hoped. All right. Yeah, I'll hit you up here directly, Orthober, and I can't apologize enough for this. So, Yeah. Go let Brush for Hire know where you came from. Hit him with them emotes. All right, Jex. We'll catch you later.